The glittering landscape of modern celebrity culture has always been built upon a fragile foundation of fleeting adoration, intense media scrutiny, and a relentless public appetite for drama that rarely considers the human cost behind the headlines. For decades, the world has watched a familiar cycle repeat itself in the brightest corridors of Hollywood, where ordinary individuals are transformed overnight into larger-than-life icons, only to find themselves trapped in a dizzying whirlwind of flashbulbs and intrusive speculation. This collective obsession with the lives of the rich and famous often peaks during moments of deep personal struggle, turning private heartbreaks into public entertainment and leaving a lasting impact that echoes across generations. When we look back at the most defining cultural figures of the late 20th century, we find stories that are as deeply tragic as they were incredibly glamorous, serving as cautionary tales about the immense pressure of living under a perpetual microscope. The memories of these iconic personalities do not simply fade away after they leave the stage. Instead, they become battlegrounds where family members, former associates, and media producers clash over who has the right to define the narrative and profit from the remains of a complicated life. Today, we are witnessing the opening chapters of a fiery new conflict that threatens to reopen old wounds and reignite a historic public debate, proving that even after decades have passed, the ghosts of Hollywood past can still spark an absolute storm in the present day. To fully comprehend the depth of the current outrage shaking the entertainment industry, one must journey back to an era when tabloid journalism reached its absolute zenith, a time when a stunning blonde goddess from Texas captivated the global imagination. Anna Nicole Smith was not merely a model or a television personality, she was a cultural phenomenon who redefined the concept of modern notoriety through sheer charisma and a striking, old Hollywood aesthetic that demanded attention wherever she went. Rising from complete obscurity, she conquered the fashion world in the early 1990s as the iconic face of Guess, channeling the timeless allure of Marilyn Monroe while injecting her own bold, untamed energy into the cultural zeitgeist. Her crowning as Playboy's Playmate of the Year further cemented her status as an untouchable symbol of American beauty and ambition, drawing millions of admirers and placing her at the absolute center of media attention. However, this massive wave of fame brought with it an unprecedented level of scrutiny that quickly began to overshadow her professional achievements, as the public became far more fascinated by her tempestuous personal choices than her modeling portfolio. Her highly publicized marriage to an 89-year-old billionaire oil tycoon shocked the public and triggered an avalanche of criticism, setting off a decade-long legal and media circus that would ultimately define her public existence and subject her to immense emotional turmoil. As we dig deeper into this unfolding saga and prepare to reveal the shocking modern developments surrounding her memory, we invite you to take a brief moment to support our investigative work by subscribing to this channel, ensuring you never miss a single update as this multi-part report continues to develop. The story of Anna Nicole Smith did not conclude with her tragic and untimely passing at the age of 39 in a Florida hotel room, an event that left the entire entertainment world in a state of profound shock and mourning. Instead, her departure marked the beginning of a fierce, complicated legacy guarded fiercely by those who loved her most and who were left behind to pick up the pieces of a shattered family structure. At the heart of this enduring legacy is her daughter, Dannylyn, who was just a mere infant when her mother died and who has grown up under the protective gaze of a dedicated father determined to shield her from the predatory nature of the entertainment industry. For nearly 20 years, this small family unit has strived to maintain a sense of normalcy, quietly honoring the memory of a mother and partner while deliberately steering clear of the toxic sensationalism that originally defined her life. This carefully constructed piece, however, has now been violently shattered by the sudden announcement of an upcoming feature film that threatens to expose the most private, painful, and sensitive chapters of their shared history to a global audience once again. The modern controversy centers on a newly produced biographical drama that has drawn a blistering condemnation from the people who hold Anna Nicole Smith's memory closest to their hearts. Larry Birkhead, the devoted father of 19-year-old Dannylyn, has stepped directly into the public arena to voice a furious and absolute objection to the cinematic project, which is scheduled to bow in theaters later this autumn. This film, which features a prominent cast including Australian actress Abbie Cornish and veteran performer Kal Penn, is not an authorized tribute, but rather an adaptation of a deeply controversial memoir penned by a figure from Anna Nicole's final, darkest years. Birkhead has made it abundantly clear that neither he nor his daughter were consulted, involved, or respected during the creation of this production, which they view as a direct exploitation of their personal lives and an insult to the dignity of a woman who can no longer speak for herself. The sheer intensity of Birkhead's public fury marks a major turning point in the battle over Anna Nicole's memory, as he accuses the creators of breaking past promises and willingly inflicting severe emotional distress upon a teenage girl who has spent her entire life trying to process the immense tragedy of her mother's demise. The battle lines have been officially drawn in Hollywood, setting the stage for a dramatic confrontation that goes far beyond a simple dispute over a movie release, touching upon the fundamental ethics of biographical filmmaking and the rights of surviving families. The foundation of this current explosive conflict rests upon the specific perspective from which this upcoming feature film is told, an angle that Larry Birkhead and many longtime observers of the Anna Nicole Smith saga find deeply problematic and inherently biased. The cinematic project, boldly titled Trust Me, I'm a Doctor, is explicitly based on a controversial self-published memoir from 2017 written by Dr. Sandeep Kapoor, the medical practitioner who acted as Anna Nicole's primary pain medication doctor during the most chaotic and physically grueling period of her final years. To understand the profound discomfort this source material generates, one must look closely at the historical events of 2007, when the sudden and tragic passing of the global icon triggered an immediate, high-stakes criminal investigation into the network of enablers, associates, and medical professionals who surrounded her. In the wake of her fatal accidental drug overdose, Dr. Kapoor found himself thrust directly into the center of a sensationalized wrongful death trial, facing heavy scrutiny from law enforcement and the medical community alike, as prosecutors tried to prove he had acted with gross negligence by overprescribing highly addictive substances to an obviously vulnerable individual. Though he was ultimately acquitted of all 6 criminal counts leveled against him after an intense and exhausting legal battle. The shadow of that dark chapter has lingered over his reputation for nearly 2 decades. The upcoming film attempts to reframe this dark period by casting the Harold and Kumar star Kal Penn as the embattled physician, while Australian actress Abbey Cornish steps into the incredibly demanding and physically transformative role of Anna Nicole Smith. The casting choices and the creative team behind the project, led by director Thane Economou, aim to present a stylized look behind the closed doors of celebrity medicine, utilizing the intimate and often unsettling diary entries that Dr. Kapoor kept during his time treating the famous model. During the historical criminal proceedings, law enforcement officials confiscated these private journals as evidence, and several deeply personal passages were leaked to a fascinated public, revealing a relationship that frequently blurred the traditional boundaries between a medical doctor and his patient. One specific incident detailed in the diaries, which has become a focal point of discussion regarding the film's potential content, describes the 2005 Gay Pride Parade in West Hollywood, where Dr. Kapoor accompanied a prominently featured Anna Nicole Smith. In his private writings, the doctor described the experience as mesmerizing, recalling how the energetic crowd waved at them while he and Anna were all buffed out on the car. An intimate evening that culminated in an after-party where he admitted to making out with his patient and wondering if the mixing of personal affection with prescriptions of Valium and methadone would ultimately ruin his career. It is precisely this historical intimacy and the subsequent commercialization of these private moments that has driven Larry Birkhead into a state of absolute fury, prompting him to launch a multi-pronged public attack against the production. Birkhead has publicly alleged that following the legal resolution of the tragic overdose scandal, he received explicit, solemn assurances from Dr. Kapoor and his legal representatives that the physician's days of chasing media attention, doing press tours, and lingering in the Hollywood spotlight were permanently over. The sudden realization that those past promises have been discarded in favor of a theatrical release scheduled to bow in cinemas this October has led Birkhead to take formal, aggressive action by filing an official, serious complaint with the California Medical Board regarding Dr. Kapoor's active participation and financial involvement in this biographical movie. Birkhead has openly declared to major media outlets, like Entertainment Tonight, that he intends to let the regulatory process play itself out completely, to see how medical authorities view a licensed practitioner turning his former patient's tragic one fall into a Hollywood screenplay, while simultaneously warning the producers about the severe emotional distress and lasting psychological harm this project is inflicting on his young daughter. The profound anxiety surrounding how this cinematic depiction will impact 19-year-old Danielyn is deeply rooted in the compounding tragedies that define the final months of Anna Nicole Smith's life, a sequence of heartbreaking events that the film will inevitably retrace. The teenage girl, who has spent her entire life under the protective care of Birkhead, must now navigate a world where her mother's deepest struggles with severe chemical dependency and emotional fragility are packaged as a Hollywood thriller featuring veteran stars like Linda Hamilton, who plays Kapoor's defense lawyer Ellen Garofalo. The historical reality is incredibly grim. Just 5 months before Anna Nicole herself succumbed to her fatal overdose in a Florida hotel room, her beloved 20-year-old son, Daniel Smith, died of an accidental drug overdose in a Bahamas hospital room where he had traveled to visit his mother and meet his newly born infant sister, Danielyn. This catastrophic loss completely broke Anna Nicole's spirit, sending her into a downward spiral of grief and heavy sedation from which she would never truly recover, creating a chaotic environment where the lines between medical treatment and enabling became dangerously thin. By bringing these specific, agonizing memories back to the absolute forefront of popular culture, the creators of the film are forcing a young woman to witness the most devastating moments of her family's destruction, played out by Hollywood actors for global entertainment. While Birkhead has maintained a relatively diplomatic and polite tone regarding the artistic talents of Abby Cornish, noting that she is undoubtedly a nice person and a highly capable actress, he has remained completely firm in his belief that no Hollywood performer can ever truly embody or accurately capture the unique, larger-than-life essence of Anna Nicole Smith. From his perspective as a professional photographer who captured her true self behind the public persona, any theatrical attempt to recreate her life based solely on the self-serving perspective of her pain management physician is bound to be a distorted, sensationalized caricature. The escalating public battle between the protective father and the filmmakers highlights a much larger, ongoing debate within modern media culture regarding who truly owns the narrative of a deceased celebrity's life, especially when surviving children are left to bear the heavy emotional consequences of public consumption. As the theatrical release date approaches, the tension continues to mount, with the public eagerly awaiting responses from Dr. Kapoor's camp and the California Medical Board, while Birkhead stands as an unwavering wall of resistance, determined to fight for his daughter's peace of mind and protect the complicated memory of the woman he once loved from being exploited for box office profit. To truly understand the emotional stakes of this modern Hollywood standoff, one must look past the sensationalized tabloid headlines and explore the genuine human love story that connected Larry Birkhead and Anna Nicole Smith before their lives were swept away by forces beyond their control. Their paths first crossed in 2003 during a high-profile media event where Birkhead was working as a professional celebrity photographer, capturing the images of the world's most famous personalities. Amidst the chaos of flashing cameras and shouting reporters, Birkhead felt an immediate, undeniable spark with the legendary blonde icon, a rare moment of genuine human connection that stood out completely in an industry defined by superficial relationships. This initial encounter blossomed into a deeper connection over the following weeks, leading to a sudden and life-changing phone call from Anna Nicole, who asked him to move into her luxurious Los Angeles residence to serve as her exclusive personal photographer and companion. Birkhead fondly remembers arriving at the grand estate, looking around the expansive property and asking where his quarters would be, only for Anna Nicole to burst into laughter and point directly to her own bedroom, sealing a passionate, private romance that would quietly endure for the next 2.5 years away from the prying eyes of the global paparazzi. This intimate, supportive relationship, which should have been a safe haven for the couple, was ultimately torn apart by the immense outside pressures of Anna Nicole's endless, high-stakes legal battles over the massive fortune of her late billionaire husband, J. Howard Marshall. As the complex court proceedings over the promised $30 million inheritance grew increasingly toxic, a powerful circle of handlers, lawyers, and opportunistic advisors began to surround the vulnerable model, viewing the protective and independent Birkhead as a direct threat to their financial influence and control. In a calculated move to separate her from his grounding presence, these advisors convinced a heavily pregnant Anna Nicole to suddenly pack her bags and decamp to the Bahamas, feeding her false narratives that Birkhead was merely a threat who intended to steal her impending wealth. This engineered rupture left Birkhead completely stranded in California while the woman he loved gave birth to their daughter, Danielyn, in a foreign country, completely surrounded by individuals who sought to erase his existence from the child's life entirely. Upon her birth, Anna Nicole's final boyfriend and legal attorney, Howard K. Stern, was officially listed as the infant's father on the birth certificate, establishing a deeply fraudulent narrative that Birkhead would have to spend the next several months fighting with absolute determination. The sudden and tragic passing of Anna Nicole Smith in early 2007 turned this private custody dispute into a global media frenzy, as a bizarre string of high-profile men stepped forward to claim paternity of the infant heiress, who had just inherited her mother's entire vast estate. Among the individuals claiming to be the true father was Prince Frederick von Anhalt, the flamboyant ninth husband of Hollywood legend Sandeep Kapoor, who launched a highly publicized campaign to assert his parental rights amidst a circus of court dates and media appearances. Faced with an overwhelming wall of opposition from Howard K. Stern and various international claimants, Birkhead refused to back down, enduring relentless public skepticism and legal hurdles to demand a definitive, legally binding DNA test. When the scientific results were finally unsealed and read aloud to a waiting world on the steps of a Bahamian courthouse, the truth was officially confirmed beyond any shadow of a doubt that Larry Birkhead was the biological father of Danielin. In that defining historical moment, Birkhead immediately took full custody of his 5-month-old daughter, turning his back on the chaotic, toxic spotlight of Los Angeles to raise her in a quiet, stable environment where she could grow up protected from the industry that had contributed to her mother's untimely demise. For nearly 2 decades, Birkhead has successfully fulfilled that solemn promise, raising Danielin completely away from the predatory world of reality television and sensationalized media, transforming her childhood into a testament of protective, devoted fatherhood. This hard-won piece is precisely why the impending release of Trust Me, I'm a Doctor has struck such a painful chord with the family, as they view the cinematic project as a direct violation of their privacy and a cynical attempt to profit from a deeply personal family tragedy. The film's scheduled debut this October represents a critical turning point in the ongoing battle over celebrity legacies, raising profound ethical questions about the rights of surviving children when Hollywood decides to dramatize the private notebooks and professional failures of medical personnel. By filing an official complaint with the California Medical Board and taking a public stand against Dr. Sandeep Kapoor's creative involvement, Birkhead is sending a powerful, unyielding message to the entertainment industry that some memories are too sacred to be exploited for box office numbers. As the global audience prepares for the theatrical release of this controversial biopic, the true narrative remains anchored not in the scripted performances of Hollywood actors, but in the enduring strength of a father and daughter who continue to honor the real woman behind